You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Feel like who art Ed?
Try to slice it.
Who art is Mr. Wood, art Ed me?
Good. Either way, it's ambiguous. It works on so many levels.
I know.
That's off to a great start.
Welcome to Who Arted, weekly art history for all ages. I'm your host, Kyle Wood. Now, today, I'm going to be covering Andy Warhol and his Marilyn Monroe diptych. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you've probably heard an episode on this before, and this is kind of a re-recording and expansion on that episode. Right now, we're in the midst of the annual Arts Madness tournament, or at least the run-up to it, where I'm playing 64 episodes in 64 days, and I'm trying to re-record some of those episodes as I've gotten better equipment over the years, and I want to give you the best possible version of each of these episodes. But I'm also going to be playing some new content, mostly on Mondays. I'm trying to capture a couple artists I haven't covered before, while also, honestly, I will be rebroadcasting a number of episodes over these 64 days, just because this podcast is entirely created by one person who has a full-time job outside of the show. As I've done in previous years with my Arts Madness tournament, I do have links to the brackets in the show notes, and of course, you can fill out a prediction form for a chance to win a prize at the end of the tournament. Every year, I use the ad revenue I get for the month of February, and I send out Amazon gift cards to some randomly selected listeners who correctly predict the outcome of the tournament. So remember, the more you listen, the more I can give away this spring. Now, on to the actual topic for today, Andy Warhol. Andrew Warhol was born in 1928 in Pittsburgh to a working-class family. His parents were immigrants, and Andy would be part of the first generation of his family born in America. His childhood was difficult, but also laid the foundation for his later artistic success. When he was in third grade, Andy was diagnosed with Sydenham's chorea, a debilitating neurological disease that causes involuntary movements. He was confined to his bed for extended periods. But Warhol found solace in the world of pop culture. He devoured comic books, listened to the radio, and he put cutout photographs of movie stars on his walls around his bed. This period of illness and isolation instilled in Warhol a deep fascination with the glamorous, faraway world of Hollywood. It also sharpened his artistic skills. He drew constantly, finding an outlet for his emotions and imagination. His parents recognized his talent, and they nurtured his artistic inclinations. They sacrificed saving to send him to the Carnegie Institute of Technology, which is now Carnegie Mellon University, where he earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in pictorial design in 1949. Now, that year, 1949, was a pivotal year because it was not just when he earned his BFA. It's also when he struck out on his own and moved to New York City. There's a reason why we tend to cling to the cultural artifacts of our youth. Thinking about it, the music you listened to in high school, movies you watched on repeat, they hold a special place in your heart. And that's because senses can trigger memories. During adolescence and early adulthood, people are venturing out away from home, forging their own identity. It's a time that's scary but exhilarating, and when we listen to music or take in other bits of culture that we enjoyed in our youth, it triggers the emotions that we felt in that time. We're not just experiencing the art itself, we're reliving the emotions, the hopes, and the dreams of our younger selves. Nostalgia, as they say, can be a powerful drug. For Warhol, the early 1950s, the period immediately following his graduation, coincided with Marilyn Monroe's meteoric rise to fame. Her image, taken from the publicity still for the 1953 film Niagara, was plastered everywhere. It was part of the golden age of Hollywood, and Monroe was its most radiant star. For a young artist fresh out of college and navigating the competitive art world of New York, Monroe represented the pinnacle of glamour and success. The image he would later choose to reproduce was not a candid snapshot, but a carefully crafted studio portrait designed to project an image of flawless beauty and allure. Immediately after graduating, Warhol moved to New York City, the center of the art world. He quickly found success as a commercial illustrator, working for prestigious magazines like Glamour, Vogue, and Harper's Bazaar. His first commission was drawing shoes for Glamour, and many people would comment on how just nobody would draw shoes quite like Andy. He showcased a unique ability to elevate mundane objects to objects of desire. He had this whimsical sort of blotted line technique developed during his college years, and it became his signature style. He was remarkably successful in the field, becoming one of the most sought-after commercial artists of the 1950s. But Warhol yearned for more. He didn't want to be just a, quote, commercial artist. He wanted to be seen as a fine artist, a serious contender for the highbrow world of galleries and museums. The transition, though, wasn't easy. The art establishment of the time was dominated by abstract expressionism, a movement characterized by large-scale, emotionally charged canvases. Warhol's pop art, with its focus on everyday objects and consumer culture, was seen as frivolous and superficial. But Warhol persisted. Driven by a deep understanding of the changing cultural landscape, he recognized that the rise of mass media, consumerism, and celebrity culture was fundamentally altering the way people experienced the world. He saw art's potential to reflect and comment on this new reality. He began experimenting with silk screening, a technique traditionally used for commercial printing, to create his art. This method allowed him to reproduce images quickly. Now, some would say it was kind of cold, sterile, and mechanical, ruthless in its efficiency, but Warhol actually wanted to be like a robot in his work. He wanted it to mirror the mass production techniques of the consumer society he was depicting. Now, after a short break, I want to get into one of his most iconic works, the Marilyn Monroe Diptych. In 1962, just weeks after Marilyn Monroe's tragic death, Andy Warhol created the Marilyn Monroe Diptych. This work is not just a portrait. It's a meditation on fame, mortality, and the nature of image making in the modern age. The format itself, a diptych, is loaded with meaning. Traditional diptychs were associated with religious art, particularly Christian altarpieces. It's a two-paneled piece, often depicting scenes from the lives of saints or portraits of religious figures. They're portable, hinged, so that the precious images within could be closed and protected. Warhol's use of the diptych format is both ironic and deeply resonant. He elevates Monroe, a secular icon, to the status of a religious figure. He presents her as a martyr of the modern age, a victim of the relentless gaze of the media and the insatiable appetite of the public for celebrity. This choice of format also subtly hints at the duality of Warhol's own personality. He was a man of seeming contradictions, much like the subject of the portrait. He was known for his flamboyant public persona, a fixture of the New York club scene, a regular at Studio 54. Yet, beneath the surface, he remained a devout Catholic, attending Mass regularly and living a relatively quiet private life with his mother, whom he cared for until her death in 1972. The hinged nature of the diptych, with its ability to be both open and closed, mirrors the public and private facets of both Warhol and Monroe. Now, just looking at the piece, we see 50 repetitions of Monroe's face, derived from that iconic publicity still. On the left panel, the colors are vibrant, almost garishly so. The application of the silkscreen technique lends a flat, poster-like quality to the image, further emphasizing the artificiality of Monroe's constructed persona. The colors are applied in bold, almost cartoonish strokes. Her skin is bright, an unnatural pink, and her lips deep, seductive red with hair a vibrant, almost fluorescent yellow. It's an exaggeration of Monroe's beauty that becomes grotesque. It's not a realistic portrait, but in some ways that's fitting because, Marilyn Monroe wasn't a real person. That wasn't her real name. Everything about it just oozes artificiality. And the image is often compared to a Barbie doll, a mass-produced plastic version of one person's idea of femininity. Now, on the right panel, the same image is repeated 25 times, but this time in black and white. The quality of the silkscreen varies, creating a range of tonalities. Some of the images are dark and heavily inked, while others are faint, almost ghostly. This panel evokes a sense of decay, of fading memory. As we read the diptych from left to right, as we're accustomed in Western cultures at least, we witness a gradual disintegration of the image. The vibrant, larger-than-life persona on the left panel slowly fades away, leaving behind a series of fragmented, ghostly echoes. With each repetition, we are further removed from the real Marilyn Monroe. We're not seeing the woman herself, but a copy of a constructed image. We're confronted with the artifice of celebrity, the way in which the media creates and manipulates images for mass consumption. Warhol's diptych is a powerful commentary on the ephemeral nature of fame and the dehumanizing effects of the media gaze. Repetition can generally create a sense of comfort and familiarity, and yet there's something discomforting in this work. The image is familiar. It depicts a popular actress from a photo snapped at the height of her fame. Surely she was about as well known as any woman in America at that time. But was she really? Across 50 repetitions of her face, we're bombarded with the manufactured persona of Marilyn Monroe, yet the true Norma Jean remains elusive. Hidden behind layers of studio makeup, strategic lighting, and the silkscreen process itself. This relentless repetition underscores the way celebrity culture fabricates and disseminates an idealized image, fostering a sense of connection to an idea, the persona, or the character that they portray, rather than the actual human being. The diptych serves as a powerful visual metaphor for the way we often know celebrities as carefully curated projections, never truly grasping the complex individuals beneath the surface. And yet these personas are captivating to millions of people who revere them with almost religious-like devotion. The Marilyn Monroe diptych captures the anxieties and obsessions of a society grappling with the rise of mass media, consumerism, and the cult of celebrity. It's a poignant reminder of the human cost of fame and the fragility of life itself. As we look across the diptych, we see the color fade. The image fades as even the woman who was so famous and seemed larger than life fades from the public view. And in the end, her image, just a faint and hazy memory.
This concludes this week's episode of Who Arted, part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. If you found this tolerable, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. You can find images of the work being discussed this week and every week on social media at Who Arted Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and of course on the website whoartedpodcast.com. Podcast done.